All apprentices and delivery staff must wear PPE at all times in an official workshop. Note that these practical examples are filmed in a teaching environment.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to our IPF, Prospective Fault Current. Now, there's two types of Prospective Fault Current. There's Prospective Short Circuit Current and there's Prospective Earth Fault Current. So, Prospective Earth Fault Current has been known as PEFC and Prospective Short Circuit Current, PSCC. Now, you are required to test each of those across all the three phases and make a selection of the results. It's generally considered that this perhaps doesn't always happen on site, but obviously if you're taking an exam, an endpoint assessment, you do need to get this test done correctly. So you're going to be doing a combination of 6 tests in all. But before we do, there's a very important step we need to take. If we take a close-up look at the meter again, the last test we took for our ZDB was 0.34 ohms. You can see above it, it says 675 amps. So that is in fact a fault current measurement. But as you can probably see by the size of these leads here, that there's no way this meter has actually measured 675 amps. These would be destroyed now. What it's actually done is it's calculated it. It measured the voltage, you may recall, 241 volts, and it's measured the resistance. So what it's done is applied Ohm's law, and Ohm's law tells us that the current will be determined by the voltage divided by the value of resistance, in this case 0.34. But it was 0.34 because we disconnected this earth to give us a highest reading. That means a higher reading divided into the voltage, which is pretty much fixed, is going to give you a lower current. When we're looking for PFC or our fault current, we need to understand what the highest value of current could be to make sure that our protective devices and our installation can cope with that sort of current surge. So we need to get that earth cable reconnected back into the terminal to make sure that we get that nice low reading. Okay, so that gets reconnected first. Okay, so that's safely back on there. Now we're still going to do a 3-lead test, so we still need to connect to that. But now we're back on, straight onto the earth bar, and the parallel earths would be doing their magic. As I mentioned before, this is simulation, so really the impact of the parallel earths is going to be insignificant, so you might not see an actual difference. But if you imagine a whole larger installation on the route back, all the parallel earths can make quite a significant difference. But very important step, you must now reconnect the main earth cable back into the terminal and test from there before starting these tests. Okay, so we're ready to go for the first one then, and it's just the same as before. We're looking at Prospective Earth Fault Current. So our meter is set for testing between Lionel phase to earth as before, but again, it needs to be a 3-lead test because RCBOs or RCD devices further upstream would prevent us carrying out the test any other way. So I'm just going to carry on as well as before, but this time I'm going to actually be recording the amps instead of the ohms. Looking at R1 first. Meter springs into life. And I've recorded the value there of 552 amps. So L1 is 552 2, 552 amps. Moving on to L2. And that's come to 627 amps. So 627 amps. And finally onto L3. And here we've got a value of 646 amps. So 646 amps. Now, on this particular instance, probably due to some fluctuations in the voltage, my L1 reading is a bit lower than I might have expected given the original sort of resistance values and things. So I'm just going to quickly test that one again, just to confirm if that is a valid result. So I'm just going to pop onto L1, and this often happens, and you do need to satisfy yourself that you're comparing kind of equal results and that it is valid. Okay, this time that's coming at 619, which is a bit nearer to what I'd expect, particularly given the other readings. So I'm just going to scrub that and record that at 619. Remember, as the test engineer, this is your decision, your competence to decide what you're satisfied with, because you're going to be signing the test sheets. So now we've got 3 values there on prospective earth fault current. Now we need to record the prospective short circuit current and compare these values. So the first thing we need to do is to switch the meter from LPE, so reading between a line to earth fault current, to a short circuit current, which would be between the lives, or line to neutral as shown on the meter here. What you can see here, that in doing so, the meter has defaulted to a too high setting. That means it's using 2 leads, and it's going to do a high current test, which is not going to be impacted by the RCD further upstream because it's across the line and neutral. And the 2 leads in question are going to be the 2 circuit conductor ones, the line and the neutral. So with this meter then, it actually has disconnected the earth lead automatically by itself, so we don't need to do that. On some meters you're required to piggyback the neutral and earth lead, making 1 lead out of the 2 and then using it as a neutral lead. So we're with the mega now then, so we can jump straight on to testing L1 to neutral, given a short circuit value, and this will be much quicker than before. And that's giving us a value there, it's 461 amps. So that would be 461 for L1. L2. It's come to 472. So 472 amps. And then finally L3. Gives us a value of 499 amps. So 499 amps. So there you can see we've got our 6 Prospective Fault Current or IPF values, 3 Earth Fault Current values, 3 Short Circuit Current values. All of those tests has been carried out either live to earth or line to neutral. What we need to do now is pick the highest short circuit current, which would be 499, and apply the rule of thumb of doubling that value. So that would come to 998 amps on there. So why have I done that? Well, as we've already seen, this current is not actually measured by the meter, but it's been calculated using the voltage and the resistance that it's come to. But for the short circuit current, we've done each line to neutral, which has a voltage of 230 volts. Now for single phase, that's fine, that's the end of the story. But this is a 3-phase installation, and obviously there is a potential of 400 volts between the live conductors. Now some meters will enable you to measure that directly, but we're going to look at the rule of thumb method of timesing it by 2. So that tells us that our highest prospective short circuit value is in fact 998 amps. Now we still need to compare that to our earth fault current value. Now there's no need to double any of the earth fault current values, because the potential to earth is never going to exceed 230 volts, so that's a genuine reading. Looking at that now, you can clearly see that the 998 amps would be the value that we need to record on the test sheets. But when you're recording on the test sheets, the prospective fault current is recorded in kiloamps, in Ka. So we need to convert that to Ka. So very simply done, that would be, if we got 998 decimal spaces there, so we move that 1, 2, 3 spaces, decimal space becomes just there. So what we want to do now is to round that down to 2 decimal spaces generally, which would make that one a 10, making that one a 10, so actually comes in to a nice round 1 Ka. Now 1 Ka is sort of a bit lower than you might expect for most installations. You need to remember this is a simulation. You can see by the size of my incoming supply there that it's a small cable coming in. It's fed from a distribution board further in the building, which is then fed from a sub-main from the origin. So it's a long way from the origin, which is why the fault current is probably less than you might normally find. But nevertheless, that's what it is, 1 Ka. So let's get that on the paperwork. Okay, so that's our live test at the DB done. We've got all the results recorded. We need to do a phase sequence yet, so we'll look at that from the DOL shortly towards the end. And on this installation, there is no SPD or AFDDs to concern ourselves with. So we're good to go. We've proved the incoming supply is sound. The next step is now for you as the installation engineer and test engineer. We carried out a safe isolation, and the key should be on our person still. There it is. So now I just need to remove that, and then I can safely move the supply onto the distribution board and get the cover, get the lid back on. I'm not going to turn the circuit breakers on until I'm ready to for each circuit, but for now the safe isolation can safely come off.